AMD is at E3, even though it's a gaming convention. We're gonna let them slide with some graphics cards with the RX 5700 and XT, and a third card, their 50th anniversary edition. So pretty cool graphics cards. And let's jump into some of the specs. We might as well jump into that right away. Some good performance stuff for their RDNA architecture, 1.25% performance per clock, and then 1.5 per watt efficiency. So good numbers starting off. And then here are the actual 3 graphics cards, and we get to see some pretty good numbers. So RX 5700, we're seeing 36 compute units, so 2304 stream processors up to 7.95 teraflops. They're all at 8 gigs of GDR6, so no HBM2 like their little bit more expensive Vega cards. So base clock of 1465 we're starting off with, and a game clock, this is a new one they mentioned on their live stream, 1625. So this is going to be average of what you're going to see of your clock speed when you're actually gaming. So real quick, the boost clock at 1725. So when we're benchmarking your card, when we boot up a game and the card's not as hot yet, this is just my interpretation, it usually boost up like for the first 30 seconds, a little bit higher than normal, let's say 1800 or 1725. And then when we actually are like the heat's kicking up after the first minute or so, that's when it usually will down clock itself a little bit. It's hitting that 83 Celsius or whatnot. So this can be a little bit different, but this is going to be your average versus what it can actually boost to. So potentially with better cooling, aftermarket triple coolers and stuff, you'll start to see a lot higher numbers, as well as aftermarket overclocking as well, factory stuff. So that's probably what we're kind of what I'm interpreting it as anyways. But pretty interesting 3 numbers are given. So the 5700 XT jumps up to 40 compute units, 2560 stream processors, so 9.75 teraflops, a base of 1605, so a little bit higher there, 1755 gaming, good number there, 1905 on the boost. And then the XT 50th anniversary edition. So we're getting a little bit higher clock speeds going on, 1680 all the way up to 1980 on the boost. So just short of that 2 gigahertz. So pretty impressive overall. So let's just jump into some of AMD's own numbers from their live stream, comparing it against some of the RTX cards. So we get to see a comparison of the 5700 versus the RTX 2060, so that $350 price range or so. So we are going to see Apex Legend 1440p, and we're going to see them throwing some thermite grenades, some pretty intense graphics apparently. So we're seeing 88 on the RX 570, and we're seeing 72 over there. I can't quite point to it, but so that's a pretty good number for like a battle royale game. We get a bunch more games we actually get to check out in just a second here. Show a bunch more. Here's a slide. So this is, they're using the best like graphics, so DX11 versus DX12 versus Vulkan. So they're using whatever the best is for each card, and they're comparing that to each other. So you might see DX11 versus Vulkan or DX12 versus Vulkan. So here we can see Assassin's Creed Odyssey 2%. For the RX 5700 is winning here. So that is good for that card at least. 21% in Battlefield 5, Black Ops 4, 12%, Far Cry 12%, Metro 16%, Exodus, Shadows of Tomb Raider 6, we'll read it a little bit, Civilization 6, 9%, Division 2, 9%, Witcher, I'm assuming 3, 4%, I can't quite see that number. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands 4%. So pretty good numbers for these cards competing against each other. And we get to see next up the 5700 XT versus the RTX 2070 at 4205. Let's check out these numbers. So this is in World War Z. Their actual the actual game has a little benchmark of its own. So we're gonna get a number from that. This is again 1440p. I believe they're still doing best of DX11 or DX12 or Vulkan. So 117 FPS on the 5700 XT, so beating out the 2070. So beating out a lot of RTX cards here, pretty good. And then we see a little bit more of a breakdown. I won't read all these ones, but 2, 22, 6. I think I missed it again. No, here we go. So this one actually loses out in Civilization 6 by 1% and Shadows of the Tomb Raider by 3%. But still overall, looks like at least 5 to 8, 9, 10% average, just estimation with my eyeballs. So pretty good performance versus the RTX cards. Again, it would have been nice to see if they were using DX11 or DX12 here. That would have been nice for them to post that information. But overall, good numbers. And I guess we could jump into the price and release date, which we did already see some prices going on. But RX 5700, there was no benchmark for the 50th anniversary, but you can assume a little bit higher even. So $379, and this is coming on July 7th, the same as their CPUs that they announced back in their other event. So coming pretty soon. We got about like a month, so that's good. And then $450 for the XT version, and then $500 for the 50th anniversary edition, the highest boost clock going on here. So pretty good numbers, pretty soon release date. Match those up with some of the Ryzen 9 CPUs would be a pretty good option. Here's the cooler that they're going with. The reference design is a blower style fan, so a little bit hotter graphics card, a little bit better temperatures in your case. That performance per watt at 1.5x. Hopefully that'll be good for this. Heatsink copper. Here's some I/O and everything. So pretty good. We're going to talk about a couple other numbers we can mention real quick, like technology stuff that they were pretty hyped about. Their gaming fidelity, some of their image sharpening was looking pretty good without much of a performance impact. They said no performance for some of the fidelity stuff, but I think they showed like a 1% on some of their testing, so basically virtually no performance. So blurry on the right with Radeon image sharpening off. A little bit more detailed. These are probably zoomed in pictures, so you get a little bit more of an eye-opening view of what's actually going on here. It's a little bit of blur. And here's their FidelityFX on and off. So pretty much a lot crisper here. And you probably notice these a lot more when you zoom into something. So that is some good numbers. I think we have a little bit of a live stream at 4855. They do some like the racing comparisons. I couldn't really tell of their live stream, of this live stream. You probably won't be able to tell either, but a little bit blurry on this little back area, a little bit more crisp, but it makes it a little bit jaggedy edges a little bit more crisp as well. But this is zoomed in obviously, so probably will be a little bit different playing. So one other cool technology that was pretty hype that they were pushing was their esports anti-lag feature. So here is your RX 2070 on the left and your RX 570 XT on the right. So here is the millisecond response time between each frame. So you get 60 FPS or something, and there's a millisecond delay between each frame. And so when you're clicking, there's that little bit of delay from what you're seeing because of the millisecond delay. And they have an anti-lag feature, which is going to drop this even further. So I think they mentioned 33%. We'll see that slide in a second, but let's see it drop really quick. Come on, where was it? It's coming up, and it drops from 55 down to 43. So they're basically doing some magic, which is pretty good. So they're making the response time of games so even better with this anti-lag feature that you can turn on and off. And then again, I think they said 33% was the average, or somewhere around there. You see 23 on Dota, and then up to 35 on Fortnite. So pretty good lower response times. So this is going to be pretty important for gamers who are doing like FPS and esports and want that super fast and accurate response time for when you click and you try to get a headshot. And that is pretty important for those people looking for that. So the RX 5700 overall looks pretty good price. Ranges for the three cards between $380 and $500. So good. And then cool anti-lag feature. We'll have to see how that goes. Some people hopefully do some YouTube reviews on that, their own testing, so it gets pretty good numbers for that. And a quick other little bonus we can mention really quick is when you buy one of these cards, you'll get to play Gears 5 plus hundreds of other PC games with an Xbox Game Pass. So you get 3 months of Xbox Game Pass, it looks like, for these graphics cards, and I think something to do with also the CPUs. So I don't know if that stacks. You'll get 6 months. What didn't look quite into that yet. More information on July 1st, so maybe it's not even mentioned yet, but pretty good. And that leads us into the last of the impressive AMD news, the Ryzen 9 3950X. So we get to see the 16-core mainstream processor. So pretty impressive. We get a release date not July 7th, but September, so a month or two after, and a little bit higher of a price range of $750. But 16 cores is pretty much overkill for lots of gamers out there. But if you want to a main core, a mainstream processor, this is the one you're looking at if you're looking at 16 cores. 105 watt TDP, 4.7 boost clock, and a 3.5 base. 72 megabytes of cache, L2 plus L3, 44 PCIe lanes. So pretty crazy numbers all around. I think we get a side-by-side somewhere around here. Oh, here's the 5700 XT 50th anniversary. They're a little bit gold trimmings, basically. Gold, cool design, pretty cool there. Here is the 3950X versus the 3900X. So you're jumping up from 12 cores, which is a lot, to 16 cores. And also boost clock 4.6. So you're getting a little bit higher boost clock, but then a little bit lower base clock, 3.8 versus 3.5. So this is for the little bit more expensive CPU. So pretty cool. They also showed a little bit of performance on this with some world benchmarks. We get at 132.15. So let's check out that real quick. They do some liquid nitrogen, so this is a little bit cheating, but not cheating when you're doing world benchmarks, but either way, we won't see that performance in our own home. But we get to see here the numbers come. The R15 Cinebench, the 16-core world record, 5434. We get an R20 at 12,167, and then a Geekbench 4 at 65,499. So pretty good world records for this 16-core most performance in a mainstream CPU socket from AMD. They're always pushing those core limits. So pretty good there. I think they said 5.3. I think when they were showing this, when people were talking about benchmark, I think they said up to 5.3 with the liquid nitrogen, obviously, but pretty cool overall. So pretty good stuff from AMD from this live event. Lulu gets some thumbs up. You're into some gaming graphics cards. Mark says, wow. Probably 16 cores is pretty wowing to me, at least, for a mainstream core CPU processor. But either way, we will have another episode tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific with hopefully some more cool E3 coverage and some cool games and tech. With that, we will be signing out. Pew, 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 pew.